Okay, on this question, they're giving me a triangle. Then they tell me little a is 8 and capital A is 45. Let's fill that in. Little a is 8. Capital A is 45 degrees. And they want me to then find little b, little c, big B, basically everything else. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's see. We're going to need to remember the trig function. So here's the notes. Let me show you from the notes. This is from the notebook I provided. It tells us that memory device SOHCAHTOA is how people say it. To help you remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, A over H. Tangent, O over A, opposite over adjacent. This helps us remember. And what do we mean by opposite adjacent? Well, if you have an angle theta, then the opposite, if your angle's down here, then opposite of that is over here. And then this would be adjacent. And this hypotenuse because he's across from the right angle. Whereas if your angle's up here, then opposite of that is down here. This is adjacent. Again, this is the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. Okay, so let's go back. So for our angle 45 degrees, this is opposite of the 45 degrees. This is hypotenuse, of course, because it's across from the right angle. It's the biggest side. That would leave this to be adjacent. Okay. I'll write up here. So to help me remember. So what am I trying to find? I want to find this little b. Well, notice he's the adjacent. So that means I'm going to use cosine or tangent because they both have the a in them, adjacent. Which one would be easier? Well, cosine has hypotenuse. Do I know the hypotenuse? No, I don't know that yet. So I'm going to use tangent. See how I determine that? Tangent is the one that has opposite and adjacent. I know the opposite and the adjacent. Well, the adjacent is what I want to find. And the opposite I know. So I'm going to use tangent. One more time. We're looking for little b. Little b is the adjacent, so I want adjacent. I've also got opposite. So which of these trig functions has opposite and adjacent? Tangent. So I'll go, so bring it up here. So tangent of, well, I should say, tangent of 45 degrees, right? Tangent of this angle right here is opposite 8 over adjacent little b. It's opposite. It's adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. 8 over little b. Okay. So now I need to solve that for little b. How do you do it? Well, it's easy mistake to make to just think, well, let me just do it right. I'm going to multiply both sides by b like that, b over 1 if you want. And it cross cancels right there. And I get b tan 45 is 8. Did you see that? Whenever you have a fraction, multiply both sides by the denominator, right? Because if these two sides are equal, the left and the right are equal, I multiplied both of them by the same thing, so they got to be equal afterwards. Cancels out the b there. And now I can just divide by the tan of 45. Boom. I've got little b. Little b, if it is 8 over 10 45. Hit the buttons on my calculator. Make sure you're in degree mode. Check your mode on your calculator. Make sure I'm doing mine right now. Make sure I'm in degree mode. 8 divided by 10 of 45. I'm getting, oh, just straight 8. That was nice. Just straight 8. All right. Next, little c. So I'm going to put that here. Straight 8 right there. Next, I want to find little c. How am I going to find that? Well, you could do the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared is c squared, or you could just do another trig function. Little c is the hypotenuse. And we know the opposite. Excuse me. We know the opposite is 8. We know and we want to find the hypotenuse. So which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse, right? I'm trying to find little c. That's hypotenuse. I already know opposite. I actually know Jason as well, but whatever. I know opposite. I'm trying to find hypotenuse. Which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse? Sine. See how I determine that? So this will be the second step. Here. Sine of 45 degrees is 8 over little c, because that's opposite over hypotenuse. See how I chose sine this time, tangent the first time? I just look at what I have and what I need. I say I need little c, which is what they're asking for, hypotenuse. I know the opposite, so I know opposite and hypotenuse. That sine uses opposite and hypotenuse. Cosine uses adjacent. Tangent is opposite. It's not the one I want, sine. So how do you solve for the little c there? Same thing as last time. Multiply both sides by the c over 1. Cross cancels, get c. Sine 45 degrees is 8. Divide by sine 45 degrees, like so. And little c is 8 over sine 45. Hit the buttons on your calculator, making sure you're in degree mode. And I'm getting 11.31. I'll round that to 11.3 because they said 1 decimal place. Okay, and then finally, angle big B. Well, that's actually going to be the easiest of all. We already know this is 45. This is 90 because of right angle. So if I add 45 and 90 degrees, let's add 135. And then what does every triangle hold? 180, right? So then subtract that from 180 because all three angles must make 180. That leaves 45 degrees. Angle B up here must be 45 degrees. So I just added up the other two angles, the 45 and the 90, and subtracted from 180. And so there we go. We found all we need to find.